Hello, welcome back to Drinking by My Shelf. My name is Emma and this is Balancing the Books. If you're new here, Balancing the Books is the game I play every single month, where I add up all the books that came onto my TBR and all the books that went off my TBR, and I try and make those numbers balanced. And spoiler alert, it hasn't gone well this month. Before I get into the absolute disaster that is my ever-growing TBR this month, I would like to introduce you to this month's sponsor, Book of the Month. So this one I am doing specifically for you Americans out there. I have worked with a few sponsors before and I've deliberately chosen people who are UK based because that makes sense to me because I'm in the UK. But I always get loads of comments from you saying that you can't use them because actually, even though I'm in the UK, the majority of you are in the US. So this one is for you. Book of the Month is a US based book subscription company. I'm so jealous that we don't get it over here, but I'm also very excited that I have got this one as a special treat. Essentially, the aim of Book of the Month is to promote new and emerging authors and help readers discover the books that they love. So they vet hundreds of books every month and they curate a selection of brand new and even early release books so that you as the reader can spend less time researching what you want to read next and more time actually reading. With a Book of the Month subscription, you get given a choice of 5 specially chosen books each month and you can choose one, at least one, you can choose more if you want of them, to come in your Book of the Month box. And it's a completely risk-free subscription because if any month you don't like that selection or you just don't need an extra book that month, you can skip it with no charge. It's really, really easy. Another amazing benefit is that Book of the Month have the best prices for new release hardback fiction. You can get your first hardback book for just $9.99 with the promo code COZY, and that is spelled the American way with the Z. I'll write it on the screen, or you can click my link in the description box below. After the first month, your subscription is just $15.99 a month. So let's see what I got. I feel like these boxes are so iconic. It feels unreal that I have one in my house. You've got great taste. Well, thank you. So the book that I picked from Book of the Month this month is The Family by Naomi Krupitsky. This is a historical fiction about a decades-long friendship between two women. Could this sound any more perfect for me? Bound by the sins of their fathers. You also do get these iconic Book of the Month special editions. I kind of want to collect loads of these. Should I move to America just for a Book of the Month subscription? Haven't ruled it out. But the fun doesn't end there because Book of the Month very kindly sent me the entire selection this month. So as well as this book that I would have chosen, I can actually show you all of the other options. So these are the other 4 options there were to pick from. And again, you can pick more than one if you want. And there's a really great range. So here I've got A Little Hope by Ethan Joella. This is another one that actually sounds so up my alley. This is set in a small Connecticut town over the course of 1 year, and it's all about the friendships and losses and loves of the people who live in this town. A Little Hope celebrates the importance of small moments of connections. That sounds like a beautiful literary fiction. The Keeper of Night is a young adult fantasy that is set in between London and Japan. Then I've got here a great title, How to Marry Keanu Reeves in 90 Days by K.M. Jackson. So this is a romance. I'm very intrigued. Dear Keanu, you don't know me, but I'm about to ruin your wedding. So it really is about Keanu Reeves. Ooh, I'm getting friends to lovers vibes from this. Fantastic. And finally, I have a very dark looking one here, The Collective by Alison Galen. No killer goes unpunished. So this one is all about revenge. We've got a psychological suspense novel here. So as you can see, a really great range. But wait, there is more, because you can also get add-ons to come in your box as well as the specific selection chosen for each month. You can browse their website and find books from previous months or other special books they have that can go into your box as well. So I have been sent 2 of the possible books that could have been chosen as add-ons. This one I'm really, really excited about. This is My Body by Emily, can I pronounce her name? Ratajkowski? I don't know how to pronounce her name, but she is the model who is in the Blurred Lines music video and has since been writing really amazing essays. I think she's fantastic. She's like a powerful feminist who is really intelligent, and this is her memoir. This is her collection of essays. And then another celebrity here, this is Will, i.e. Will Smith. Amazing. In here, he's going to tell the story of one of the most amazing rides through the worlds of music and film that anyone has ever had. Yeah, probably not wrong. So that is book of the month. Do click my link in the description box below or use the promo code COZY to get your first box for just $9.99. I think that's such a cool subscription. As I said, I'm really jealous that we don't have them here, but I'm so grateful to be included in it this month. With that, let's balance my books. So luckily for me, this book of the month subscription arrived today, which is November. So those 5 books I've just hauled don't count for October's balancing the books, which I'm going through today. Next month's Emma will have to worry about that, but for now we're focusing on the damage that has already been done. At the end of last month, I finished with my books not yet fully balanced, and so I had to put this one into purgatory. This is Talking to Women by Nell, Dunn, and I basically had to finish it by the end of October or it would have to get unhauled. And I did pick it up and read it, but I did not finish it. I wouldn't say I actually DNF'd it. It wasn't like a deliberate, I don't want to read the rest of this. It was just that I kept not picking it up and then suddenly October had finished. So I think that means that I am going to reluctantly part with this one. I was enjoying it. This is essentially a collection of interviews that Nell Dunn carried out with some of her friends. So it's all just women talking to women, and I love that concept. And I did enjoy them to an extent, but I found them quite hard to read. Reading like a transcript of an interview written out, it all reads a little weird. I kind of wished I could just be watching it as a video because it was actually quite hard to follow written down. And also, while it was really interesting reading women's attitudes in, these were all conducted in the 60s, it was really interesting hearing some of the ways in which these women were really empowered, and I loved hearing about that. But there were also, you know, some dated attitudes. Right from the beginning, in the first interview, they had a whole discussion about lesbians being disgusting, which, you know, I didn't love. So I just didn't fall in love with it. I really liked the idea behind it, but I'm not particularly excited about picking it up again. And so this one will go to charity and someone else will hopefully love it and not think that lesbians are disgusting, I hope. So with that book out of the way, we can at last retrospectively balance the books for September. My TBR settles out at a respectable 29 books until October happened and then all hell broke loose. So let's begin. First up, I hauled these 2 books. You've actually seen both of these books before in the video I posted on Monday, because I was sent both of these by Emma Tobias as part of a challenge video. If you haven't watched it yet, what are you doing here? Stop, go back and watch that one and then come back, because otherwise you're going to get spoilers about what happened. I have read both of these. Thank goodness. Bright Lines is a novel about a family living in Brooklyn. They are Indian Americans, and we are jumping between the perspectives of various characters. The father of the family, who is a dick. The adopted sister of the family, who is weirdly incestuously infatuated with her adoptive sister. There is another daughter of the family whose perspective we don't get, and I found her the most interesting character. But like, everyone just fancies her all the time and nobody loves her. No one cares about her, they just fancy her, and it was very upsetting. So I found this book quite distressing to read, which isn't necessarily a bad thing for me. I love books that are sad and dark and horrible, but this one I also just didn't get into because I felt like I did not care about any of these characters, other than Sado, who no one looked after. So that was a 2 out of 5. Goodbye. Then I read It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey, and my prediction for those 2 books would definitely have been the other way around, because as you know, I don't really read romance, and this is a romance. I've even read a Tessa Bailey book before, again because Emma made me, and I hated it. This one I thought was way more fun though. This is a Schitt's Creek inspired romance, and I love Schitt's Creek, so I did enjoy that. I mean, I still just gave it 3 stars. I will say that Tessa Bailey has a rather annoying habit that I remember from the last book of hers I read before. When she comes up with characters, it's like she kind of rolled a dice of quirky character traits, and then whatever weird combination she finds, she just really wants to hammer that home. So for example, our leading man, our love interest in this book, has an obsession with following through on things that he started, and so we have to watch him do strange things like try a bite of a pie and then not like it but have to eat the whole pie. And it just felt like she was plucking weird character traits out of the air. So that was a little irritating. I also did not find the sex scenes attractive at all. I talked about that in the vlog that I talked about. I'll link it below, because it was like very masculine and feminine and it just like wasn't my thing. So, you know, I didn't fall in love with this book, but I did have a really surprisingly good time with it. So far, no damage done. Watch this space. The next thing I did was haul 12 books in one day. I just went to the shops and I bought 12 books. It's actually been a very long time since I did something like that, so I will say I really enjoyed it and it was worth every penny and every second spent and all of the pain of lugging them back from the shops, but obviously I haven't read them all, not even close. I don't want to go through them all in a ton of detail because I actually already did a whole haul video dedicated to this particular haul, so I will link to that below if you want to watch me talk about all of them. For today I'm just going to tell you about the ones that I read this month. I had to count that several times because I thought I couldn't possibly have got that right. But no, I really did only read these of that whole selection. You know what's funny? What I just realised? The book that I already showed you, the Final Girl Support Group, that wasn't one of the books that I hauled this month. Andy had sent that to me ages ago. Oh, Luckenbooth! Luckenbooth was the one that I did read from that pile. Oh my goodness, I've got no idea what's happening. It is a historical fiction ghost story. Again, you can see me vlogging my reading experience of it in that horror reading weekend that I did. I thought it was fine. I gave it 3 stars. It's basically a collection of sort of roughly interconnected stories. And some of the stories I got into, and most of the stories I did not. And it also got like very, very violent towards the end. So yeah, it just wasn't my thing. The surprises continue because this is another horror book that I read in that same vlog, A Head Full of Ghosts by Paul Tremblay. And I gave this one 5 stars. I don't think I've ever given 5 stars to a horror novel before, but it happened. Okay, we're dealing with it. We're moving on. So this is a book that's kind of like The Exorcist. Part 1 is very Exorcist-esque, and I have seen that movie multiple times, don't know why, because it is very scary. It's very scary and also very silly, but somehow we used to watch it a lot when we were at school. So a lot of this felt very reminiscent of The Exorcist for part 1, but we're also getting hints the whole way through, flashing 15 years into the future, that this girl who we are seeing being possessed and needing an exorcism from a priest may actually not have been possessed in any supernatural sense, but may have needed psychological help. And that is what the book is about. So once we finish part 1, we then really delve more into that side of things, and that makes it just get darker and darker. So it was very sad as a book. It was very creepy. It was ambiguous enough, which I like in a book. It definitely left some questions unanswered for you to come up with your own theories about, so you don't have to conclude that there is absolutely nothing supernatural at all in the book, but you could conclude that. Again, this one had some other great references to other horror novels and movies, and again, I picked up on loads of them. Maybe I love horror. That doesn't seem true. The only other one from that book haul that I started this month is Himself by Jess Kidd, and I didn't finish it. I DNF'd it. This is the first time I've picked up a Jess Kidd novel, and people love Jess Kidd, but I hadn't really heard about this one before. I've mostly heard, is it called Things in Jars? People love the book Things in Jars, and there's a few others that people are obsessed with, so I will give her another try. I think this was her first novel, and it just wasn't for me. I'd been really struggling to get into it anyway, and then I started Googling stuff, because sometimes if I'm not enjoying a book, if I Google some spoilers of stuff that's to come, I can get myself kind of re-excited about it, but instead I just discovered that there was going to be a horrible scene involving something bad happening to a dog, and I was like, you know what? It's not worth it. I don't want to read a book I'm not enjoying just so I can get to a horrible scene about a dog. So I put it down. But this is a ghost story. It's about a young man who goes back to the town where he was found abandoned as a baby, and he wants to track down what happened to his mother, who has been missing ever since then. But he can also see ghosts, and he does, everywhere. Again, if you want to know more about the other 9 books that I hauled, you'll have to go and watch my spooky book haul, because these were mostly all thrillers and horrors. I was trying to buy as many spooky books as I could for the spooky month of October. The only exceptions to that are these 3. Love in Colour is a collection of short stories. These are all love stories. They're retellings from mythology and history and folklore. And these are 2 literary historical fiction novels that the bookseller in Waterstones told me were the best books he'd read this year, and so I bought them, no questions asked. Their names are, if you couldn't see that, This Mournable Body and Washington Black. But when I showed this off in a haul before, someone commented this is actually the 3rd book in a trilogy, which the bookseller did not tell me. So do I have to go back to the beginning now, or does this work as a standalone? I don't know. Then I just continued to haul books like a maniac. So next I bought this one, The Other Black Girl by Zakiya Dalila Harris. This one was voted by my Patreons for me to read in October, and so I did, and it was a really good vote from them because I loved it. I'm reading this one with my offline book club. When are we meeting? Is that soon? luckily it's okay because I have read the book. Usually I'm last minute panicking because I haven't read it, but I'm really excited to hear everyone's thoughts on this. So this book was not what I was expecting at all, and I don't want to say too much because I don't want to give spoilers, but I described it the other day as being Such a Fun Age meets Get Out. It is kind of genre blurring, and I hadn't expected that, and that was really fun. It's basically a satire of racism in the publishing industry, but it is incredibly chilling, and it goes in directions I hadn't predicted. Big recommend, not that I'm the first person to do that. This book has been very, very buzzed about already. My lovely friend Christy sent me this book. She's in New York at the moment, and I'm missing her loads. So she sent me this as a complete surprise, which was lovely. This is Sankofa by Chibundu Onuzo, who is actually, it turns out, an author who went to school with another of our friends, which I didn't know when I read her previous book, which was called The Spider King's Daughter, and it was really good. That was like 5 years ago that I read that. So I'm really looking forward to reading this. I know basically nothing about it. It's a gripping, surprising and funny story of a mixed-race British woman who goes in search of the West African father she never knew. Sounds really great, and I'm really excited to read this and talk to Christy about it. Christy and I tend to have pretty similar taste in books. We are in the same book club with our uni friends, and obviously everyone always has different opinions on the different books, but I feel like Christy and I are often the most similar. Then again, we've had some massive alternative opinions on books, so who knows. But yeah, I'm excited to talk to her about this one. We're nearly at the end of the haul. I know it seems like it's been a million years, but we are nearly there. I was given these two as a gift. So this is Our Wives Under the Sea, which is the first novel from Julia Armfield, the author of Salt Slow. I don't know if you remember me talking about that a while ago. So Salt Slow was a collection of short stories that I absolutely loved and kind of got me hooked on short stories. I hadn't previously been a huge fan of them. I hadn't really tried them out enough, I guess, but I really, really liked Salt Slow. They were strange, creepy stories. They were about women and their bodies, and a lot of them were queer, and a lot of them were quite horrifying, and this is her first novel, and I've already started it, but I haven't got very far yet at all, but this is the one that I'm going to be diving into this evening in bed. So this one has been described to me as a lesbian fish novel. What more could you want, really? And then this one is Manifesto by Bernardine Evaristo. Bernardine Evaristo is the author of Girl, Woman, Other, which is one of my favourite books of last year. I think I read it last year. Time Has No Meaning Anymore. Feels like it's been 100 years, but yes, I think that was last year, and I absolutely loved it. And I also have read Mr. Loverman since then. I just think she's a fantastic writer. Obviously, she is the winner of the Booker Prize, and this is her non-fiction book on never giving up. Bernardine Evaristo was the first black woman to win the Booker Prize, and Manifesto is her intimate and fearless account of how she did it. So we've reached the end of my haul, and the numbers are not looking great so far, but don't worry, it's not over till it's over. I did read some more books from my TBR trolley, so let's go through those. In fact, I actually had quite a DNF heavy month this month. I've already talked about DNFing himself and talking to women. I also DNF'd two books that I don't have anymore, actually, because I left them in the office after I DNF'd them. I started to read a book called Brood by Jackie Polzin, which I've heard amazing things about, and I think it just wasn't working for me this month or whatever. It's about a woman keeping a brood of chickens alive for the course of a year, and I've actually spoken to quite a few people who really loved it. One of the influencers that I work with at work picked it as her favourite book of the year, so it's had really high praise. So do not take me DNFing it as any sign other than it just wasn't for me. It was about chickens, which is cool, but it was also about motherhood and craving for motherhood, and just life experiences that I can't relate to, which doesn't necessarily mean that I wouldn't read a book. I read lots of books about experiences that I can't personally relate to, but I don't know, it wasn't connecting with me, and I was finding it a bit of a chore to pick up, so I didn't keep reading it. I had the same experience with Catch the Rabbit by Lana, which is a translated novel about two women who go on a road trip across Bosnia to find one of one of the girls' brother has been missing for years, but she thinks she's tracked him down. And again, I've heard really fantastic things about this book, so I just didn't feel like reading this month, maybe. I don't know. My friends from my book club tease me that I actually hate reading because I'm always the one who complains the most about the books in our book club. I'm always like, ugh, that was shit, what a waste of my time. So they think that maybe I hate books, which would be odd, seeing as I have devoted so many areas of my life to books, but who knows, maybe I hate books. I did DNF those two. I read The Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix. This one was sent to me by my lovely colleague Andy. Thank you so much, Andy. I was very scared. I was excited when he sent me this, but also very scared because the cover is covered in blood, and he said it wasn't going to be that gory, and I didn't believe him because I'm more squeamish than the average person and definitely more squeamish than Andy, but he was right. I loved this book. I don't have a big knowledge of horror movies, and this book is very much referencing so much niche horror movie knowledge, but I still felt like I got it. Like, I had to Google a lot of the references, and I'm sure there were loads of references that I didn't even pick up on and went over my head, but I just had such a fun time with this. It's kind of a parody of slasher movies, but it's not just relying on being a parody, it's also a really good book in itself, and it subverts a lot of tropes. As you can guess from the title, it is about the concept of final girls, so it's also this kind of psychological deep dive into survivors' guilt. It's about literally a support group of women who were the final girls, the sole survivors from horrific massacres, and it kind of delves into how they are coping with that, but then also in this action-packed page-turner because suddenly they are all being stalked. It's kind of a multimedia book as well. We get blog posts, we get articles sprinkled throughout, which really added an extra layer of fun to it, I think. Some of them were extracts from like academic essays, so it just felt really smart as well as really fun, and the goriness was fine. It really was. I read The Sister Who Ate Her Brothers by Jen Campbell. This was the final one that I also read in that vlog. I've been doing this in a weird order, I think. This was a collection of fairy tales, gruesome tales from different countries and different mythologies, and I thought it was fantastic, and it's got these like really creepy little illustrations the whole way through. If you know Jen Campbell, which I'm sure you do because she is a very famous and successful booktuber and author, she loves fairy tales. She talks a lot about fairy tales and their origins and their effects and their meanings on her YouTube channel, and so having her write a collection of fairy tales was just fantastic because she obviously kind of respects fairy tales so much and so can really do them justice, but also can see where historically fairy tales have led to harm, for example in the portrayal of people with disabilities. And so in this collection, she just subtly addresses those things, and it's just a beautiful book in the creepiest of ways. I read Kololo Hill by Nima Shah, and I liked it fine. This was set in the 70s, and it's about the expulsion of Ugandan Asians from Uganda, which was a period of history that I didn't really know about, and so it was really interesting to learn about that. And this is another novel where you're jumping between different characters. There was one character in particular who was called Vijay, and it was his chapters that I think I enjoyed the most. I liked following him and being inside his head. I didn't connect as well with most of the other characters, and so that kind of kept me a little bit distanced from this one. But it was really moving to read about this true story that happened, and we're following this one family who all have different passports from different countries, and so they're being forced apart, and also they're being forced out of a country where they have always lived and being told to go home, but this is their home. And so then the treatment they get when some of them we follow going to Britain and experiencing racism there from people who want them to go back to their country, and they're left wondering what their country is. And so, yeah, I found that really moving to read about, even if I didn't necessarily connect with all of the characters in here. And finally, I read Girl in Snow by Dania Kakafka. This is a mystery, a literary mystery. So it's about a high school student called Lucinda who is murdered. She's found murdered at the beginning of the book. And again, we're jumping between three different characters. There is another boy from her school who was obsessed with her and used to watch her at night and draw pictures of her. There's also a girl who hated her. And then there is an adult who is the detective who's assigned to work out what happened. And so it is a mystery, and the book is kind of, the plot is centred around what happened and solving this mystery, and there were genuine twists and turns, which I really enjoyed. But actually way more than that, it is a character study. I really enjoyed getting to know these three characters, particularly Cameron, who is the young boy. I thought he was the most interesting character to read about. Yeah, so it was really, really good. It's very mesmerising and it's slow moving. It's not like a fast-paced thriller, but it has enough of that excitement to kind of keep you going if that is what you like the best. But yeah, it's much more a psychological drama. I mean, even the tagline on the front says, "Who are you when no one is watching?" So that kind of gives you a clue. It's very much about who these people are. So, I don't know what the bloody hell that adds up to. I'm gonna have to count again. Okay, I've done the maths. It's not good, is it? I'm 6 books. Unbalanced. I have to get rid of 6 books. I don't want to get rid of 6 books. Ugh. This is the book that I've maybe had on this shelf for the longest, or one of the longest, and I just keep not picking it up. But I also keep wanting to pick it up. I think I most likely won't like it. It doesn't seem like it's my kind of thing. But I know that Simon loves it. And I'm just intrigued, you know? It just sounds weird enough that maybe I'll love it. This is another one that I've had on this trolley for ages. This one just sounds like a really sad book. It's about a couple who die, and then we're just following the aftermath of them dying. I'm saying that as if that's a bad thing. That's exactly the kind of book that I love. I love sadness, so I do want this. Oh, help me. I don't want to get rid of any of them. This is too much for me. It's too late at night for me to make these kinds of decisions. What if I just didn't? What if I just didn't do it? Like, no one can make me. Try and send me to prison. You can't. Do you spark joy? Okay, what if I don't balance my books? Because I don't want to. Or I could just be really harsh, just rip the band-aid off. I'm not going to read From the Wreck right now. I'm not going to read Competitive Grieving right now. I'm not going to read The Ophelia Girls right now. Am I? I kind of want to. I'm not going to. I'm probably never going to read this terrible looking book I bought for 50p. That's 4. My battery is flashing at me and it's very aggressive. I know I'm taking too long. I know. Okay, I'm back with a new battery and a new resolve. This is the 3rd in a trilogy. I didn't realise that. I should swap it. For someone might have the 1st in a trilogy, you know? I should start from the beginning. That makes sense. This one does not need to be on my trolley right now, waiting for me to read 2 other whole books. And then we're back to this one. I know I said I love sad books, and I do, but I've had this for so long and not read it. Is it because I think it's just going to be too sad? It's just about grief. It's just about like 4 days of grief. Is that going to be too much? The one that I should unhaul is Rabbits by Terry Miles, because this is most likely not going to be my thing, but it's one of those that, like, it could surprise me, you know? It's about a virtual reality game, or not a virtual reality, an alternate reality game, and it's probably going to be absolutely nothing that I would read. I don't know why I keep holding on to this, but I think it's because, so my sister, who has very similar reading taste to me, recently read Ready Player One. I've never read that, and she got completely obsessed with it, and she was like, it's a nerdy book, and she didn't think she was going to like it. I don't know if it's nerdy, this is not me passing judgment on it if you love it, but she was just like, it's such a nerdy book, and I loved it so much, and she was like obsessed with it and couldn't stop talking about it, and I had this feeling that Rabbits could be that for me. The fate of the entire universe is at stake. It says the fate of the entire universe is at stake. You know, reading that sentence put me off, actually. I don't think I need to read a book where the fate of the entire universe is at stake. I don't think that's what I thought this was. That was emotionally tiring, but that is 6 books. I need to not look at them, otherwise I'll change my mind. I brought this upon myself. And you know, it does feel very freeing. Because guess what? Guess what that means? My books for October are balanced. It's my bedtime now, so I'm going to leave, but I would like you to comment below which books you hauled this month, or what your favourite books were from October. And once again, thank you so much to Book of the Month for sponsoring this video. Do click the link in the description box below, or use the promo code COZY with a Z to get your first book for just $9.99. I've got books all over the floor, so I'm going to tidy them up now. See you next time!